Welcome to the Weekends Overrated. It's your host, Don Dollar. Thanks for everybody who's tuning in. Make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe. Uh, we knocked out our episode one. I think we dropped three. The inaugural episode. Just going over, what did we learn? A block, B block. But I think now I've kind of overthought the format as far as how we're gonna put it out. And as of now, we just gonna flood the. We're gonna flood it. We'll start putting out things on certain days once we kind of get some more traction. But for now, we're just gonna flood it. So today's what did we learn? This has probably been one of the more, I don't want to say valuable, but I'll say it. This has been one of the more valuable lessons that I've learned over the past 3 years. Um, the what did we learn segment of today is what God has for you is for you. And sometimes your blessings are your blessings. I had to learn that the hard way. Um, you know, I'm generally a person that, if I'm doing something that's working and that's going well, I look to see how I can help others. That's just kind of like a natural, I guess, a natural feature in my personality. Like if I'm in welding school to learn how to be a welder and I'm doing phenomenal and I graduate and I become a licensed welder and I'm doing good and I start my own thing and I got traction. I'm like, okay, I'm going, but who else can I help? I kind of like to adopt the mindset of like a force multiplier. Like, how can you make others around you better? But sometimes that is not always my place or my position to do so. So, one thing I'll say is, um, in regards to let's say business slash real estate. So for me, 2020, we pretty much hit the ground running right in the thick of the pandemic. We bought our first property. It was a duplex, and then I think like 4 or 5 months later, we bought another property right around the corner. And then a week later, we bought another property a couple blocks down. So we were, pretty much, we was rolling, and then I think a little under a year later, we had another property under contract that we were, trying to get, just trying to build up the portfolio. And on top of that, we were looking, in markets outside of the tri-state. So with that, and then stock market investing, wholesaling, like we pretty much was doing any and everything as it pertains to invest in real estate, stocks, business, whatever. Like we was on it. And, around that time, there was a lot of conversations that I was having with individuals, in regards to, wanting to, I guess, get started in real estate and do a lot of different things. And I think my what did we learn lesson is that instead of instead of curating a situation where individuals would have been able to chart their own path and more so me be a guiding force along the way, I kind of assumed the position of making sure or seeing it through, or you know even sacrificing business deals for myself, in order to help others. And it's not that helping others is an issue, but sometimes you just got to realize what's for you is for you. And, you have to maximize what it is that is set out for you. Then, once you get to a certain point, you can start to transition and navigate to help other people. Because sometimes what you'll see is that in the long run, if you could go back, you probably would have did things a lot differently because of how things pan out, and because time is the greatest measure. Like no one knows how things are going to go. That's why we have to allow time to see, how things play out. And I know for me, like I said, to this day, I still, help people, do consulting and different things like that. But as it pertains to, sacrificing business that could benefit me and my tribe, that's where, we no longer are venturing out in those waters. And it's nothing personal, it's just business. And, I had a conversation with one of my mentors, and she told me, when God has his blessings for you, sometimes they are for you. You'll know if they are for you and then some, but you have to make sure that you're not doing so much external that you don't feel the cap up internal. Because at the end of the day, and what I had to kind of go through and see is that you know life will go on. People will go and focus on other things and do other things, and the work that you might put in, it won't be appreciated. It won't be handled in the fashion in which you approached it with. So I think, like I said, yeah, for the what did we learn portion today, again, we just want to focus on safeguarding your blessings, because sometimes, and it's not anything that's with a negative intention, but sometimes people will see, things that are going a certain way for you, and whatever it is, it can be in business, it can be personally, it can be relationship wise, it can be education, it could be whatever, right? It could be on your job. And sometimes that can motivate them to want to create their own version of that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think for an individual like me and others who share that, I guess, over caring, or sometimes you care a little too much than you're supposed to, you got to understand how to carefully measure out your efforts. Because again, you'll find yourself looking back after time has passed like, man, should I have did that? Or if I had that opportunity back, would I do that again? And then 9 times out of 10, you'll find yourself not, extending yourself the way you may have before. So I think that's just a key lesson that kind of came to mind, because more so towards the end of my efforts, as far as trying to help others get their foot in the game with real estate and different business ventures, I kind of seen myself saying, hey, you know I left some food on the table that I didn't eat, that I could have ate, that I was taking a little off my plate to help fill others' plates, and others end up not even eating the food that I sacrificed. So, and it's never like a thing that you look back and you like have any like negative feelings or anything like that. I think everything just comes in a form of just a lesson. You do things, you see how they play out, you learn from them, and then you move accordingly going forward. So I think that again, keeping the main thing, when you are in the midst of a blessing, you got to maximize the blessing. You can't be like right in the middle of the blessing and then say, okay, let me just go, help out all these people or this person or these two people. You have to maximize and get all of the get what you can out of the blessing till its fullest. And then once you've reached a certain point, once you've maxed out, then now you have the ability to, like I said, guide others on their journey, and like I said, creating whatever success looks like for them. So it's not necessarily what you do in helping, but it's how you do it. And you want to help from more of an advisory standpoint than necessarily skin in the game, because that skin won't necessarily be, I, I don't want to say appreciated, but you could have, you could have, you could have done better with, reserving the skin in the game portion and just more so serve as an advisory, because again, everybody's journey is their individual journey. So that's just, my thoughts, because like I said, for me in business, real estate, investing, etc., consulting, I've invested a lot of time. I've, given a lot of myself. I've extended myself in great lengths, and it didn't pan out in a lot of circumstances. Some circumstances, it panned out beautifully. But, just having that discernment now, I feel like will help guide me better going forward, especially, in business. So I'll leave you guys with this. Again, when you're in the midst of a blessing, when you're in the midst of a blessing, because you'll just get a continual cycle of good things that happen back to back to back. More likely they'll be within the same area of life, right? Like I said, it can be on your job, it can be your business, it can be relationship, it can be personally, it can be spiritually, right? However it comes, when those things are happening, you got to just lock in. Sometimes you just have to focus in and really get out of it, its maximum potential. And then once you're able to fulfill that portion, then you transition into being, a guide for someone else or being helpful for someone else, because you've already taken care of everything on your end. So that was my what did we learn spiel for today. So lock in and